Yeah, why is Bob called Bob? Because we wanted the hero to be an everyman, and we wanted him to have a simple one-syllable name. These days, if you watch TV, it's Jack. All the heroes are called Jack. Jack Bauer, Jack O'Neill. Jack is the cool name these days. Jack Unlost, yes. We wanted Bob to have a simple, one-syllable name that was an everyman kind of name. Plus, the other half of the story is we were back in England at the time watching TV while we were creating the show and stuff. And Blackadder was on TV. And season 2 of Blackadder, the first episode of season 2, has a girl who dresses as a boy to become Blackadder's manservant and falls in love with him and yada yada yada. And she calls herself Bob. And we loved the way that Rowan Atkinson said Bob. You know, he did the, so Bob. And we thought it was very funny, and we sort of saw that as karma, because it was during, we were having this conversation about Bob's name, and that was on TV, and it just felt like karma. And we were like, Bob, that's it, Bob, and it looks good, and people will think it means binary object and things like that. And it doesn't, it's just Bob, it's just his name. So there you go. Question. Gillian, because obviously they were shooting, they were shooting the X-Files in town, obviously, and we found out through somebody, friend of a friend or an agent or something like that Gillian Anderson was a big fan of the show. And so we got in touch with her and said, well, do you want to come and tour the studio and have a look around and say hello? And of course we were all like, oh my God, that's it. And I got to show her around, and it was really cool. It was so exciting. And while we were showing around, you know, we sort of, not wanting to miss an opportunity, we said, would you be at all interested in doing a voice on the show? And she's like, oh, I'd love to. So that was it. Of course, as soon as she left the building, Ian and me and Phil are in the room going, okay, now we need to come up with a plot where we need to get Gillian Anderson in the show. And that was where we came up with the whole, we actually had a writer who'd worked on the X-Files and loved ReBoot, and he'd sent us a spec script, which I believe was called Trust No One. But the story was completely different. But it was a great X-Files parody, even though it was the wrong storyline. So we got that guy to write the episode Trust No One and put Gillian in it. And she loved doing it. Did you direct that one? No, all right, that's season 2, I guess, yeah. So she loved doing it, she had a great time, she was a sweetheart to work with. And we said to her, do you think David would like to do, you know, the other half of the duo? And we got the message through to him and got back an emphatic, no, not interested. So we got Scott to do a complete and utter piss take of David Duchovny.
Wait, no, they went, okay, you know, well, you've seen the X-Files, we need you to do David Duchovny. And I went, I've never seen the X-Files. And there was this, and so I went and I got some and I watched it and I went, and I do a lot of impressions and they're, you know, usually fairly broad. I watched and I went, how can you do that? He does nothing. So I literally just stuck my nose in the microphone and was like, the aliens have taken my sister. And that was how I played the whole show. It's just like that. The funny thing was a little quick offshoot of that when we were auditioning for Beast Wars much later, and there was about 6,000 rounds of auditions for that show. And we kept going through processes, coming back and call back and call back, and then eventually we had to go in and meet with the executive types, the suits from the toy company. And I was going, oh man, this is where all creativity goes out the window. So I had to call back for a couple of characters, and I'm waiting, and I go in, and sure enough, there's these very sort of officious-looking young men in suits, very Brooks Brothers, and very buttoned down. And they're like, oh, you know, thank you very much for coming in. We very much enjoyed your auditions for. So I did my auditions for Beast Wars, and they went, oh, by the way, you worked on the ReBoot program, did you not? And I went, yeah, I did actually. They went, we have a question. Could you tell us who played the Fax Modem character on ReBoot? I went, well, I can answer that. I went, yeah, it was me. And they went, dude, that was freaking you, man! Best thing ever! And the next day I get a phone call going, you booked 4 characters on Beast Wars. They just instantly turned into like ravening fanboys. They were like, they flipped. They loved that episode and the show. So, you never know, do ya?
Say what? Are you talking about doing the voices? Voice work? Okay. Basically, the process of voice recording. I mean, we've worked together. All of us have worked together for years and years and years. When we show up for a show, everyone's got a script. We usually have, ahead of time, so we know what we're doing. Everyone highlights with these little highlighters. It's my line, crap. You know how you do it. So sometime, it all depends. When we first started in this business, we used to rehearse. We used to go through the entire script through once just to get, everybody used to it. But it seemed like the best stuff was the first stuff that you do. And then we'd say things like, yeah, Scott, no, it was great. Just do it like you did in rehearsal. And Scott, yeah, but it's gone. It's like that moment was good. Right, so we thought, you know what, we're recording, or not recording this, we're not recording the rehearsal, so why don't we just forget the rehearsal and do the show? So that's what we do. So we just this is a waste of time, So basically what we do is we go through and we do it in little scenes, little chunks, and we'll go through, okay, this is lines 1 to 20, and we'll go through that little sequence. And then, we're feeling good. It's maybe a little quicker overall. Let's just do it again. So we do it again, and then maybe we come in and say, maybe, okay, Paul, we want to get, just pick up be a little stronger. He's farther away. Blah 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 blah. It's very tedious.
I didn't find it tedious at all, Michael. I actually found that whole process of recording and taking all the funky bits out very enlightening and endearing.
That's lovely. Really? I don't buy that for a minute.
I enjoyed every moment of it.
No, these guys are great. What? We recorded the very first shows at a place called GGRP, which is actually, no, it was called, what was it?
Dick and Rogers.
No, it wasn't Dick and Rogers.
Dick and Rogers upstairs.
But it was GGRP. Didn't we first, was it the first? Yeah, no, the one where on Columbia. Yeah, but it was Dick and Rogers here. Sorry. Dick and Rogers was here, and then GGRP, which is Uptown Sound, it was called. And Uptown Sound was part of GGRP, and it was a big, huge recording studio. It's not even, I don't even, there's somebody else in there now. But this studio was one of the biggest actual rooms that I've ever been in a studio. It was wonderful. Yeah, it was huge. So yes, we recorded it there, which is now known. And we did some stuff. I think we did some stuff in Little Mountain. We did some stuff. Yeah, and then Pinewood, which was downtown, which is no longer there too. So. Yeah. Oh, 5 minutes.
Maybe one more question. Yeah?
Oh, I've got 2 more.
Oh, 2 more questions.
There's one right there. And we have, oh no, sorry, it's you first, then you.
Thank you, Gary.
I'm the policeman.
Yes. With the episode where Penguin makes an appearance from Wallace and Gromit, do you have any reactions with the Wallace and Gromit creators?
Okay, this is a question about the Penguin from Wallace and Gromit, who made way too many appearances in ReBoot. When you're doing a show like ReBoot, it's like if you do it once, it's a joke. If you do it twice, it's pushing the joke. If you do it 4 times, you're going to get sued. So, we did a thing, there was a scene in, I think it was Identity Crisis, where we